Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to this week's installment of the Court Reserve Lunch and Learn Spark series. We are so happy to have you with us today. I'm joined by my teammate Josh, and we are just, again, so excited to be here and be sharing something brand new from Court Reserve today. You guys are really the first to see this, other than a couple beta customers, and we kind of maybe plug this a little bit in our new features webinar earlier this month, but we're super excited for you guys to be here today and check out this new experience that we've built for all of our Court Reserve customers. Before we get started, just a couple housekeeping items from our side. We are recording this session and it will be on YouTube in the next 24 hours. So once we're done, I'll send it over to our marketing team and they'll work some magic and get it posted to YouTube in a very, very short period of time. And then as you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A section. Try not to use the chat button. The chat, we don't really get a record of those really well after the webinar is over, but we want to see what questions people asked. And then Josh is actually going to be in the background answering some of those questions too, and we'll ask a couple of them live as we go through this presentation also. If you can't find the Q&A button, because this actually was new news to me recently, if you're in a browser window, that Q&A button is going to be kind of behind a 3 dots more option within your browser window. And if you're using the Zoom app, it should be within your Zoom app toolbar. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a couple of just things that we have coming up with Court Reserve. Our friends over at Pickleball Mastermind have another mastermind coming up in March. If you haven't been to Mastermind, Devin Egan is the master of pickleball setups. And so he's really built a masterclass around how to run a pickleball facility and the formula to success. If you haven't checked out Pickleball Mastermind, you can go to this link on our Josh is going to drop it in the chat, but go to the Club Pickleball Mastermind website and learn more about Devin's classes. Court Reserve is also back in 2026 with Catalyst. Josh and I did the first one last month in January in St. Augustine. This spring, we are going to be in Columbus, Ohio in April. We're going to go to Detroit, Michigan in May, and we'll be out in Colorado in July. Check out Catalyst. No matter how familiar you think you are with Court Reserve, I guarantee you're going to take something away. We share best practices between organizations. We share, what we think as a Court Reserve product and setup team, we think is valuable information as well. We want to make sure you understand how to use the software and how it, all of the ins and outs of it. And so Catalyst is definitely the place to learn more about things that you're not using and just get to know some other customers that are also using Court Reserve. And then finally, you can come meet some of our Court Reserve if you're going to be out and about at some of these industry conferences or expos over the next couple of months. Come and see us. We go to all of these and we love to meet our customers and talk about your experiences and how we can help. So definitely go say hey if you see a Court Reserve table. Our sales team would love to see you. All right, and then the last housekeeping piece to tell you guys about is this Spark series that you are already a part of. And we also have a new series starting very soon called Courtside Conversations. And Spark is just a lunch and learn opportunity for you to learn more about Court Reserve. So every week we're featuring a different topic. And then the Courtside Conversations is something new that Ashley's starting. She's doing roundtables. And so you can come and learn about best practices from other facilities. So she's kind of building panels of people, asking questions, and going through and teaching you about how other clubs use Court Reserve too. So definitely check out Courtside Conversations. You can go to courtreserve.com/webinars. Josh dropped that in the chat as well. And so you can learn more about all of the different topics that we have coming up. All right, Josh, you ready? We're going to dive in. So I'm going to start here with this, just the slide and tell you a little bit about what we've built. So the title of today's webinar is Streamlining the Player Booking Journey. Okay, what does that mean? And I think if you read the description before you joined this webinar, it talked about public booking. Well, in Court Reserve, we know for a very long time, Court Reserve has always had kind of this friction point. And that is that players have to create an account in order to do anything at your facility, right? They have to have a membership. If you're a pay-to-play facility, you have to have some sort of membership to unlock the keys to the kingdom, right? So what we've done is we were introduced to a big player in the tech industry last spring, okay? Through a connection at the USTA. Big shout out to the USTA for kind of plugging us for this opportunity. But Google approached Court Reserve last spring and said, hey, we want to work with you guys. They'd seen what we have currently within our system, what we offer, but they said, hey, it doesn't really work with Google. We want you guys to be able to have your customers add a button to their Google business profiles and allow players to book a court directly from that business profile. So Josh and I set out to do some work. We've been working for the last, Josh? We figured out a little bit earlier today. It was about 10 or 11 months now. And we built a new experience inside Court Reserve to allow players to access your facilities without having to create an account. So we're going to dive into that player booking journey today. I'm going to start with an example that we're using at Old Coast Pickleball. But this has been in beta now for, we released it on January 7th in beta to a small group of customers, and we've been adding organizations over the last month. I just ran some statistics this morning, and in the first 30 days of public booking, we had almost 1,500 reservations and registrations. Works beautifully. We're so excited to share it with you guys today and tell you about some of the things that we have coming new with this feature. All right, so that is the end of my slides. Now we're going to jump in to actually show you what's going on. If you visited Court Reserve today, and again, this is launched to everybody today. Josh and I released this at about 11:15 this morning. So if you want to learn more about public booking, that's what we're calling it, Court Reserve Public Booking. You can go to courtreserve.com right now, and our amazing marketing team has added it as a banner on the very top of our homepage. And then you can kind of learn more about what I'm talking about as I go through. But definitely watch the webinar, watch me go through it. It's a brand new booking experience that you've never seen before. So there's our website, but go ahead and check that out, courtreserve.com. You can also go to courtreserve.com/public, and that will take you to this URL as well. It's public-booking, but public also works as well. All right, so let's start with Court Reserve and Old Coast Pickleball. Now, if you are not familiar with our founders, Tim and Ashley Owens, they own their own pickleball facility in St. Augustine. It's a beautiful 2-court facility right on the inlet in St. Augustine. But we've been using public booking now at this facility for a while now. They were our first customer that actually had this in beta in December. But I want to show you how they've set up the player journey to give you an idea about how you could do this as well. And Josh, if you also want to post, I'm not sure if you posted it yet, if you want to make sure to post the knowledge base article that will link link our customers to the knowledge base to just get that introduction article as well. If you go into that introduction article that is in the chat, there is a couple of clubs that we have listed at the bottom of that introduction article, just links to their main website so you can see how other clubs are using public booking as well on their websites. But this is Old Coast Pickleball's main website. So as you can see, it looks very similar to a member portal. So Tim has structured the Old Coast Pickleball website to be very, very familiar to customers and their member portal experience. You'll see here he's got a book a court button up at the top right-hand corner. And then on his hero row here, right in the middle, he's got a join our club, which is going to take you to a memberships page. This is a page that a lot of you are probably very familiar with. But then he's added some new buttons here. So instead of just directing all players to his member portal to start and create an account and figure out what membership they want, we get a lot of customers that are just maybe more transient, or they don't want to make a commitment of actually creating an account because they're maybe coming once or twice. So how can we facilitate that booking journey for them? So that's what we've built with public booking. So behind these 2 buttons here, players can now access your location with a new dedicated link. So when you enable public booking, you're going to get a dedicated link, and I'll show you that on your settings page here in a little bit. But you'll get a new link that will direct players to this booking experience. Now, Tim had 2 buttons, the reservation experience and then one for events. So there are 2 separate links that you can use to set up your website. We've got a lot of feedback already about a lot of these things, and so you might see some changes to maybe how some of this looks in the next couple of weeks. Not big changes, but just making things a little bit easier to find, making URLs a little bit easier to find, things like that. So if I wanted to right now hop over and look at the events list, I can actually hop over and explore those activities. This was one of the biggest points of feedback that we received from some of our customers, was that Activities is a little bit hard to find. Let's make it easier. So we do have plans to make that button a little bit more visible for folks when they're on the main site, so you can flip back and forth. So I want to go back to the reservation experience. As you can see, we've redesigned the player's reservation experience to streamline finding a reservation. Okay, so instead of opening up like the app and having to create an account and then click book a court and then filter through all of the options in the schedulers, we're just going to let them pick their options up front and it'll show them what's available. So if I go through and I start booking this experience, I'm now going to get a new window that shows me what is available on what days. And from there, I can pick when I want to play. And then I'll show you the sign up journey here in a second. So all of the information is then collapsed for the player and they see, reserve a court, and they can continue on in that booking experience. And I'll take you through a full booking experience here in a few minutes. This is Tim's real organization, so I don't want to mess with his public data, but we'll go ahead and take a look at that. I want to also show you this event list that we've built. This event list is very similar to the event list that we already have, but I like to say we toned it down a little bit. Our court reserve organizations have a lot of color. We just kind of redid the experience in a way to where it's going to be very easy for players to look at it and use it and navigate. Again, we took out a lot of the colors. We simplified the navigation a little bit. And also I want to point out that I'm showing it to you on desktop right now, but this player journey was really built for mobile. We focused very heavily on the mobile development to make sure that navigation and choosing these pieces of information that you wanted to learn more about within these clubs was easy to find and easy to navigate on a mobile device, because most of our customers are coming to us, we know, on phones. So as players go through, they can, and again, there's some things I can't just demo really well on desktop. Again, this was built mostly for mobile, but you can slide back and forth and see the different weeks up front. Players can easily navigate back to today. I could actually go in and choose a different date in the future based on when I'm attending. And I can also filter my options as well. So some of the things that we did here too, where once a player starts filtering, they're going to see a heat map of information that actually tells them how much activity is on that day based on what their search options were here. So it helps the player really navigate and find what they're looking for, and maybe on a day that works best for them. So some cool new things that we've added to public booking, and the goal is really to make the experience frictionless for the players as well. So they might not know a lot about your facility, so we removed some filters. We moved a lot of choices just to kind of narrow in on that streamlined booking experience that we really want your customers to have, and removing that friction of blocking them at every turn, maybe when they try and go register for an event or create a reservation. So that's really the booking journey as a whole. I do want to jump in and actually show you this in real time with the with my club here. That's a test account in the background. Josh, I just wanted to check, are there any questions that you wanted me to go over live before I jump into the actual demo of how this works inside my club?
All good. You can keep going.
All right, let's go. Perfect. So welcome to Wave Pickleball and Tennis Club, everybody. This is my organization that I use. If you are in the App Store, we also have a mobile app for Wave. So if you've been curious about how our branded mobile app works, a lot of times we tell people to go download Wave Pickleball and Tennis Club from the App Store. Try to keep it up to date, but sometimes you can see little things in there that maybe not every club has seen before. But anyway, if we go into Wave, I want to show you how this booking journey works for players. So I'm just going to start here and book a tennis court. So as you can see, as I go through this experience and pick options, the next one opens for me. So I quickly am guided through the booking journey. If I want to find a different day, I can absolutely do that. And the options are going to update and expand for me based on what's available. So as you can see, we're already past the morning, so there's no morning slots open, but I can still play in the afternoon today. And all of this is also built based on rules that you already have set up in your organization. We built public booking in a way to where you don't have to necessarily set up a new membership if you don't want to. So it's looking at the time in advance that the membership type I've assigned in the background is eligible to book these reservations. It's also looking at some of the settings that you have within within those reservation types as well. So if you have set to, like here, I only picked 2 players, but within your reservation type, if you have set to split the amount between multiple players that are playing on the court, that whole fee is still going to get charged based on the number of players that are chosen. And then that person that owns the reservation, myself booking this reservation, is going to be responsible for that fee. You know, the best thing I can tell you from that point is tell players to settle up amongst themselves with a Cash App or Venmo. But it still collects that full fee amount based on how you already have your organization set up. And so you don't have to worry about really creating additional memberships or custom costs and things like that. So let's go ahead and let's pick a court. I'm going to pick one today just for the simplicity of when I get on my scheduler, I want to see it when I log in. But we're going to go through this booking journey together. Okay, so first thing the player is going to do here is they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves. All right, so we're going to do Kim test webinar. As you can see, first name and last name are required. Players have to give you that info. They could put in like Daffy Duck or something like that, but hopefully people are going to be honest when they're giving you their name because they want to own this reservation. The next thing that you see here is phone number is also required. We are validating every single reservation and registration that comes through your system, based on phone number. So when I put in a phone number here, I'm going to actually get a text message that gets sent to me immediately, and I'll show you that here in a second, so I can validate that I own this phone number and that I can basically receive communications to this phone number as well. Biggest question we got about this phone number and this validation process is who pays for that text message, because if you're using Court Reserve usage or text messaging, you know about usages. This is through this validation, Court Reserve is going to be covering the usage. So every time a player submits their phone number and verifies themselves, that is coming from a dedicated Court Reserve number. It's actually a phone number that we created specially for public booking. It's only being used for public booking. That way that this is maybe a phone number that players are not already familiar with, and they'll actually get the message. We've had instances in the past where, you know, maybe a player's unsubscribed from another club and they stopped getting messages. So this is a brand new phone number, so you don't have to worry about players that have maybe unsubscribed from your organization even in the past. All right, and then email. Right now, email is going to be optional for players. Again, we were trying to remove a friction point here, but we've found just through our feedback that most players are inputting an email address, because on most of our devices, when I'm making this reservation, those are going to be pre-filled for us. I know every time I go and make a reservation actually on my phone when I'm testing everything, my phone pre-fills all my info for me. So we are seeing that most clubs are getting this email address. And then we'll talk about contact and things like that with the players actually after we get in, because we have opened up some doors as far as communicating with guests with this feature right now. All right. So then if you have any additional custom fields within a reservation as well, those are going to be filled out here for the player journey also. So, you know, even if you just wanted to find out how did you find us, you know, you can ask them those questions and they're going to answer them. You'll get all of that information too that you can look for in reporting. On the right side of my screen, you're going to see those reservation details, so they can verify all of the choices that they made in the previous screen. And then also like their surface, if you have multiple surfaces, those will appear here as well, along with the cost summary, which is going to break out. Right now, I'm not using taxes in this organization or convenience fees, but if you're charging sales tax, it's going to break that out here as well. And then also, if you're using convenience fees, those will be visible for your players here as well, so they'll clearly see the total that they owe you today. One of the things that we also changed about public booking is that currently in Court Reserve, you have the option of doing a disclosure for your reservations. If you're using disclosures for reservations, you're familiar with the booking experience for players. They actually have to check off that they agree to the disclosures within their reservation. Here, this is just going to be an assumed acknowledgement. So we did take your disclosures and put them behind this terms and conditions right here. And so any of that information that you have in your reservation disclosures, those are going to appear here as well for your players. And then again, it's just by continuing, I agree to the terms and they're off and running. All right, so now let's continue. And here's that validation. Now the phone number I used is a one that goes through an app on my phone. So just give me 1 second, but I do have a code here for you. 124595. Okay. So that code came through immediately. I'm off to my payment flow. So as far as payments go, players are going to always be required to complete payment. Even if you're currently not accepting upfront payments within Court Reserve for your guests or at all, players are going to be required to pay for uh, these reservations in the member portal. So one of the things about public booking is really the only requirement for public booking. It's available to all of our customers, legacy pricing and our tiered pricing structure. Everybody has access to public booking. You don't have access, however, if you are not using integrated payments. So if you're currently a customer that isn't using Stripe or SafeSave, one of our payment providers, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to use public booking until you link an integrated payment provider. But once you do that, there's really no limits for you here. You can use public booking. And again, it's available to all of our customers once they have payments. All right, so let's enter the sensitive information about the credit card that I'm using. And then they'll validate that billing zip code. Now, one of the questions Josh and I have gotten a little bit frequently is, where is this cancellation information coming from, right? Well, a couple months ago, we released a new setting, or it's more of an update to the cancellation information in Court Reserve. So under your reservation general settings and under your events general settings, there is we switched the setting a little bit. So it used to be always players could cancel unless you actually prevented them within a certain number of hours. So we've actually added a checkbox to where you can say players are not allowed to cancel at all from the reservation. So you can actually uncheck it and say players can't cancel basically at all. Or you can, check that they're allowed to cancel and then put in an amount of time. And so for events, that was a huge thing, because for events, if you didn't want players to withdraw, like me at my old facility, I had to put in 9,999 hours within an event to make sure that players couldn't withdraw. We didn't like the way that looked for public booking, so Josh and I decided to change that within the system itself. So now you have actually like a checkbox within events that says players are allowed to withdraw. And then it's pulling that cancellation information and it's displaying it here to the player before they even pay. So if you are using, telling players about your cancellation and your terms and conditions, or you are, we're also going to tell them about that cancellation information just based on the settings that they're already using in Court Reserve. So no special things really for them to go and set up in there. All right, so now let's pay. Let's get this ball rolling and we'll pay, and we're going to see what the next page looks like, because again, everything we've built here is new. And so we're so excited for you guys to see it. All right, reservation confirmed. Cool. I am off. I am running. Now what happens? So when the reservation is confirmed, this is kind of where everything from the organization standpoint is going to pick up. So I actually receive a text message within I think the service is running about every minute. So the player should receive their confirmation text message within a minute. However, your organization does need to make sure that you are allowing those notifications to be sent via text. So we are still looking at if you have text messages enabled for confirmations and things like that. So if you're not doing that, the player's not going to get the text, but if they enter their email, they're going to get that information. I do also want to plug that we are going to make it a setting to require email address. So before you even ask Josh about that, you'll be able to make email required in a couple of weeks. We are currently working on that. All right, so I got my text message. Super cool. And so the player actually, when they get their text message confirmation, I'm not going to show it to you right now because it's not tied to my computer at the moment, but when they get that text message confirmation or their confirmation email, it's going to have a link that takes them back to this page. So the cool thing that we did with public booking is that our reservation confirmation is on its own unique URL. So the players could actually, if I'm registering for something a week in advance or a month in advance, even if you allow that, they're not going to find their confirmation email, right? So they can get that back on a text message that's going to come to them, or that email, and they can get back to this page at any time. So this is a unique URL for them. And so they can come back to this page at any time. Also, even after that reservation is over, I can still get back here if I wanted to pull my receipt or something like that. This top information is going to is dynamic. And so if you are a club that is requiring approvals for reservations, or your clubs that are requiring approvals for events, all of those statuses are going to reflect up here. So if this is under approval, there's going to be a status here for approval. This reservation is declined because you're requiring approvals and you didn't accept this as an admin. It's going to show them declined. And then same when the session is completed. When the session is completed, it's going to give them some info at the top that says the session has passed, but they can still access their information. What else do we do here? There's a status also for canceled. So I'll show that to you here in a minute, but if they go and cancel their reservation or registration, that status is going to update here for them as well. All right, so let's continue down the page in the confirmation. And so I can see all of the information that I input about my reservation, the reservation type that I was assigned to, the time, how long it was. I even can see my court assignment here. If you're an organization that is hiding the courts from your players, they're not going to see court here, so don't worry about that. And then the number of players is going to show here as well. Player information, verify who I was when I actually registered, and confirm that phone number that I entered as well. And then the email address will show here. And then also the additional information, any of those custom fields that you had them complete, those are going to appear to them too. They have all of their payment info. We even gave them a check-in QR code. All right, so I also want to plug another feature that we released in our last January release cycle. We allow you to prevent specific membership types from using a check-in kiosk. So definitely go check that webinar out from earlier this month. I think we did it, it was last week, wasn't it, Josh? Yeah, we did it on February 12th. And so last week we did that webinar and we shared that you can actually prevent members from using a check-in kiosk. And so that's also going to apply to public booking. So if the membership that you've tied to public booking, and we'll get into that in a second, I'll show you the ins and outs on the back end. But if you've got a membership that you're not allowing to use a check-in kiosk, you want those players to go to the front desk, you can prevent that as well, and they'll just get a decline when they get to that check-in kiosk. All right, we're also showing some location information here. So all of the location, if you have an address completed within your organization, which I hope everybody does, that's going to appear here as well. Org phone number will appear here too. And then there's some additional information. And I will get into shortly what this additional information is. But if they want to see their receipt again, that is available to them. And then if you add any custom information about your facility, that's going to be here as well. So definitely, I'll show you how you can do all of this yourself too. Players can also cancel their reservation. So if you're allowing them to cancel their reservation, all of that logic is built in here as well. And then they can share it, which is just going to copy their URL so they can send it to somebody if they wanted to share the info on the reservation. And then that's a public booking confirmation. The next piece I wanted to just show you really quickly is explore activities, because events works very much the same in the player intake, but we've done a couple of things for events that I'm super excited about. And I wanted to make sure that we were showing you so you could kind of have an understanding on how this works at your organization. I set up an event a little bit earlier with Duper, but I don't see it here. Let me just make sure I made it visible. Give me 1 second, everybody. So within public booking, we are also doing some validation to player eligibility when they do their registration. Okay, so what day? Give me 1 second. I apologize, everybody. I thought I had this set up ahead of time, and I think I did it incorrectly. So give me 1 second. Okay, I have an event created. I just want to make sure that it has a duper on it so I can show you the duper piece. Josh, you know what I did? I set it up in a different organization than when I was actually going to be testing. Awesome. Okay, Friday the 19th. This event is the one I want to show you. Perfect. All right, so here is an event. Okay, you saw my event list. We've updated the look and feel of this list. It's very similar to what we have now, just introduced a new UI. But once players go to actually register, they can see the details of your event, okay? Very similar to what you have now. So everything that you currently have in place is going to display here. Down to the description. You have info in the description if you use, and again, this is very friendly to any of the formatting that you're doing within your description box as well. So in my description box on the admin side, I dropped in a picture. I added a whole description and everything like that. So all of the info about your event is going to be displayed here for your players as well, down to those event tags that are going to show up at the top of the page. So I'm going to go in here and do a drop-in. Now, I'll show you a full event here too in a second, but what we've done is, so if this is a hybrid event where there's drop-in and full session registration, you're going to have another box over here on the right for the full session option. So players can still do one or the other. You can accept full session registration for public booking. You can also accept just drop-ins for your public booking registrations as well. So once you start registering, now, this is, again, I wanted to show you this because within the events piece, we are doing some eligibility for the player to ensure that they meet the restrictions. And a lot of times that's going to come into play maybe when you're doing a large event or a tournament or something like that. You want to make sure that these players are the level that they're supposed to be. The duper one is pretty unique because within the duper one, we're actually going to validate that the player is at the level that you require. So they'll get a very similar login experience that they do when they are loading it on or are linking their duper on the member portal side. So we use the same process. So you saw that I just validated my duper credentials. I logged in. Now the API is grabbing that duper information from this player. And I'll show you also what this is going to look like on the admin side because we give you all of this information too on the admin side. So let me just validate a date of birth here. I'm pretty sure I said I had to be at least 18 years old, so let's hope that is working. Perfect. You can also see here, because I added my duper information in the previous step, I'm also pulling this player's first name and last name. And that's super important because we wanted to make sure that, I wasn't using anybody's, credentials. Maybe if, the husband had a really good duper rating and was wife trying to get into the event, we didn't want the person to be able to use any name that they wanted. So we're going to pull in their name from their duper profile so we know that they are who they say they are. And then they're going to go through that validation process. And I'm just going to quickly go through this. But I'm going to complete this because I want to show you what this looks like on the admin side when we actually get to this event. So give me one sec. Let me just validate really quick. Got that text message. And then we'll look at how this confirmation looks. Josh, while I'm completing any of this information, are there any questions that you want to throw at me?
No outstanding questions. I did want to give a little reminder to please use the Q&A feature. But also we are getting a lot about waivers, Kim. So if you could talk about where we're at with
Yes.
waivers, that would be
I'll
great.
talk about waivers here in a second. Waivers are coming. Don't worry. We didn't forget about waivers. All right. So I'm paying for this reservation now. And actually, when I get to this screen, I'll talk about waivers. All right. So waivers are a huge piece of court reserve, right? We know that. And so we didn't include it in this first release, but it has been actively in development. I was actually QAing it right before I came onto this webinar. And it's almost complete. It looks really good. I've got a couple of things that I tagged as bugs in our QA side of Court Reserve, but it's coming very, very soon. I'm not going to give you an exact release date, but what I talked about with our developer right before this call is it will be very, very soon. So we understand that you might not be able to use public booking until waivers is released, but don't worry, it is coming in the very, very short term. But also in the last webinar that we did last week, I also mentioned how to use a public signing link for your guest waiver kiosk. So definitely go check out that public signing link for guest waiver kiosk because we did that just to make guest waiver signing a little bit easier before we released waivers for public booking. So that would be in the webinar that we did as well. And actually, if you go to, our technical writer did put it in the welcome to public booking article that Josh pasted earlier. So there is a little bit of how to, while we don't have waivers today, you can use maybe the guest waiver kiosk public URL as a way to get information or get those waivers before players come. But when waivers is ready and released very, very soon, the players they're not going to do that signature during the registration process. Why did we do it that way? we did keep it separate because we had already had this flow that was working really great. And literally, you can create a reservation in 90 seconds. I'm talking through this because obviously I want to show you all of the information. But if I go to book a court, I can pick all of my options and I can enter in my payment information and I can check out and I can be done. It's super simple, super quick. We didn't want to introduce a potential blocker for somebody to question if they really wanted this reservation or not, right? The goal is to get them in, get them into your facility, get their reservation booked, and you collect the money for the reservation, right? So we tried to reduce as much friction as possible. So when the player gets to the confirmation page, there's actually going to be a big yellow box here at the very, very top that says, hey, you have to sign a waiver for this facility, with a big black button that says sign now. It is coming. It's working. It works great. But that is not available today. So again, I'm sorry if you can't use this today because we really, you really need those waivers, but hopefully you'll be able to use it very, very soon. But waivers, yes, very much a part of this, very much coming. So stay tuned. And actually, if you turn this on, even just have it on in your organization and you're not using it, because I'll show you how that works too. You could even, we'll send out a notice to everybody that's using public booking that has it enabled, and we'll let you know that waivers is up. So definitely even go turn it on and enable it, even if you're not going to use it today. All right, so with this event confirmation, there's a little bit different information that's available as well. So I can actually see, obviously, the courts for this event. There's a lot of them. I can also view the details of this event. So if I ever come back to this registration confirmation, I can easily get back to the event details to maybe see how many players are registered or who those players are. Because with this details page, again, we're just copying all of the information that you already have out there. So registrants will show here as well. And I don't have registrants turned on for this event, but I wish that I did. Let me see if I still have it up in my background here. So let me just turn it on 1 second. That screen is really big. Hold on. Okay, I can't find it. I'm just going to keep going. Sorry. But if you do have players that are registered, oh yeah, it is here. Registrants, 1, Kim L, that's me. So those are going to show here as well. So players will be able to see who else is registered, and all of that fun stuff. Back to the confirmation page though, this player is going to see, again, all of the information. I entered my duper information, so my duper is going to show here as well. And it's going to show the player their duper information based on the day that they registered. Okay, so it's still following the same logic that we already have in the system. As long as you meet that registration, or I'm sorry, that threshold for duper, you're still going to be eligible for the event, even if it drops below on the day of the event. So all of that info is going to show here as well, along with their check-in code, map, all of that fun stuff I showed you before. All right. Josh, I'm going to hop into the admin side now because I really want to show them how this works from an admin perspective. And if there's any questions after I jump in here, just stop me and we can answer them, okay? I know it's already 1:37. This webinar, I'm probably going to go the full hour, you guys. Like, there's so much to show you. So if you have to drop off, I'm really excited for you to see the rest of the webinar because it will be on YouTube in the next 24 hours. So if you've joined late, yes, the webinar will be posted on YouTube if you missed the beginning. So don't miss that. It'll be on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/courtreserve, I think is our YouTube address. All right, so let's check out some public booking information on my scheduler. Okay, so here is a public booking that is on my scheduler. Okay, let me get a drink of water real quick. I'm talking a lot. Okay, so when that player shows up on your scheduler, automatically it's going to look a little bit different. We opted to not use the same G that we have everywhere in the system for guests. So you're going to see this P here. Okay, so it says Kim Test Webinar P. That's the name of the player when they registered. So that's going to show for you here as well. And I can see the information about that player from this reservation. If I go edit the reservation, I can see that player's name, how many players that they're bringing, all of that fun stuff. One of the other big pieces of feedback is they're bringing 3 players. How do I add those other 2 when they actually arrive? Right now you can't from the admin side, but that is a big piece of feedback that we've gotten. And so at some point in the near future, or short term, I shouldn't say near, I should say short term, we'll look at how you can add additional guest information here. But again, we really wanted this to work somewhat quickly. So we built it based on the information that we already had in the system. So they're going to still show up here as the guests, but you know that this is a public booking because they've got that P next to their name. Okay. Let's jump into an event. So here's that event that I was playing with. Let me go to dates so we can see what that looks like. So from an event perspective, and this event is today's Thursday, right? So this is Thursday right here. So let's look at this event on my scheduler. And off the bat, again, it looks very similar to the reservation one. What we also did with events is we're showing you that the little eye that you've always seen when they have a custom field on the event. So if they're gonna actually always, you're gonna always be able to get to that information for events on the player. It's gonna show you the phone number that they used, the email that they used when they signed up. And then if they entered any eligibility information about themselves when they registered, like their duper number or their duper ID, and then their age, gender would appear here as well. All of that info, that's going to appear here for you. And then when you actually open up that modal or that info, you're going to see the player's duper rating that is set to the event. And then you're also going to see their duper ID. So you get their full duper picture here when they register to the event, even if they're a guest. And again, that's a guest coming through this public booking avenue. All right, so that's events. That's kind of just how it looks on the admin scheduler. And this update right here that I told you about, or I'm sorry, this eye functionality, this already existed for events. So we just kind of put it on steroids a little bit for public booking. We are going to be adding the same logic to reservations. So all of that information will automatically show just like it does here because we agree you need that info. And then for admins also, while I'm in here, you can notify these players as well. So these are your public booking registrants or players. And so if they've entered an email address and they're always entering a phone number, so you can text them too if you have texting enabled, but you're always going to be able to communicate with this player. So one of the big blockers that we've had in Court Reserve for a while is that you can't communicate with guests, even if a phone number was put in there. Since the player did validate their phone number, we take that validation as an agreement to receive communications from you. And so you can text that player notices about your event. You can email them as well. And we're also going to be extending this capability into reservations. So that will also be coming very soon, hopefully the short term from the admin side. But you can communicate with these players just like you do your normal members. All right, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, Josh. Let's actually take people to settings to see what you can look for. So in the last 42 minutes, I've been talking a lot about public booking. So if you've opened up that article that we sent in the chat earlier and you went to just see how do I even set this up, the way to set this up, so again, this is available for every Court Reserve customer that's using integrated payments. So if you have an integrated payment provider right now, you can go to your settings page over here on the left-hand navigation and scroll down to your portal settings row. And there lives public booking. If you don't have an integrated payment provider connected, you're not going to see this button, okay? So if you go into our support team and you're like, I'm looking for public booking, but I don't see it, double check that you have integrated payments, that you're using Stripe SafeSave, and that you actually have that partner connected. If you do have it connected, then you'll see it, okay? So let's click on public booking and see what happens. Now, I already have this set up in my organization, obviously, since I was just showing it to you, but when you first go in here, if you go in here right now, it's going to be showing as disabled, okay? All that's going to do is it's going to hide this URL. Once you enable it, that URL is going to pop up. So if you remember back to when we were on Old Coast Pickleball at the very beginning here, he had a URL up in his, and it's directing to this tab right now, but it's basically the beginning part of this URL. So that is going to display to you here on the admin side. So that's your URL. You don't actually have to use public booking. Sorry, let me rephrase that. This link is only going to be accessible to players until you post it somewhere. So like you saw Tim post it on his website, you could actually turn this on and play with it today. And the only people that are going to be able to use it are you because you're the one that's testing it. So you could take this URL after you're happy with your setup. You can post it you can email it to players. You can post it on your website like we saw. You can put this in a Facebook post. You can put this in an email newsletter that you send out to customers that are inside and outside of Court Reserve. So the limits are endless for where you can use this link. And then this is the page, again, that once we get this Google integration finished, I'll go into more of that at the end. This is the page that people are going to be directed to start that booking journey. Okay, so you can enable it without actually posting it anywhere if you want to test it and play with it. But this is really your starting point once you enable it. All right. The next thing you see here is this nice blue box that tells you that public bookings requires text alerts to be enabled. Okay. So if you're a customer today that is not currently using texting, we are going to just make sure that you're aware that in order to receive those communications, you need to turn them on. And so we're just giving you that usage information as well. So normal usage rates apply once that reservation is booked and they start getting those confirmations if you do have them turned on. So just keep that in mind. But again, that validation text message that I had to get the code for, that's covered by Court Reserve. So we're doing all of the validation coverage there. All right, next important settings to look out for. Allow public bookings for reservations and allow public bookings for registrations. So in order to use public booking, you have to obviously enable one of these two things. And then you need to map it to a membership. Okay, so again, we built this in a way where we know most of our organizations that want to use this already have some sort of non-member or guest membership in their account that is free, right? And so you could map it right to that free membership and not have to worry about any other setup in your system. So that's the really cool thing here. So I have it right now mapped to free player for reservations. And so since I've turned both of these on, now I can take both of them. You could only publish reservations if you want and still require your members to sign up. If you're not allowing registrations, it's not going to show that activities button and show even the event list. So I have gotten some feedback about clubs that maybe just want to turn this on for specific events. So thinking about how we could do that. But right now, allowing public booking registrations, once you enable this, this is the only way to make the public URLs available for events. All right. Allow login from public bookings. This just puts that login button up in the top right corner. So if you're directing this maybe from your website and you have regular members, they can still get in here to the normal login portal for them. Some of the feedback that I have gotten from our clubs is just making the login option for members a little bit more visible. So we're evaluating how to do that on the player experience side. Josh is actually looking at that. So I'm excited to see what we come up with there. And then requiring upfront payment. We decided to make this a setting, even though you can't turn it off, because we wanted you to be aware that, that upfront payment is always going to be required. So definitely you can't uncheck that, but it's always there for you to look at. It's always required for public bookings. And then we've also added some information here at the bottom for custom confirmation page content. Okay, so if you remember back to when I finalized my registration, let me see if I can open up. And I should have got an email. Give me 1 second, but I want to show you confirmation. Okay, so I just clicked this link from my email, but I can get back to it at any time because again, it's in my email confirmation. So we're looking at the custom confirmation content. Sorry, my mind totally blanked there for a second. Okay, so this additional information at the bottom, you're always gonna have a receipt, okay? They pay for it up front, you're always gonna have a receipt. The rest of this information is all custom information, too many tabs, all custom information that I can create here on the settings page. So if you have info you want the player to know about, code of conduct, on-site parking, whatnot, all of that, you can put that here. So the player has details about your facility before they even arrive. So definitely take a look at that if there's things you want them to know about. I've listed some examples here, like a player code of conduct, on-site parking, general waiver information. But then also, when we release waivers, this general waiver example is probably a bad example, but once we actually release waivers, once the player signs the waiver, they'll actually get a copy of their waiver that they can access at any time in this additional information section. So there'll be a row that's automatically added, just like the receipt, for the player to see that information later. You don't have to add it. It's automatically going to happen when they sign that waiver. And then they'll be able to get back to it at any time. Man, I really wish I could just show you what waivers was going to look like because I was testing it in this club earlier today, but I took it out for this demo. And then the other thing that you can do here is you can sort this info, okay? So, you can put it in any order that you want, just to kind of go top down what you feel like is the most important for the player to access. All right, Josh, I went through what is public booking. We created a new experience that players can book as a guest without creating an account. Let's talk about the Google integration. Okay, so that is another thing. Again, that was really the driving force about what we're doing here with public booking as we have an integration with Google coming. So what does that mean, Google integration? Well, if you have a Google Business ID, okay, so if I have a Google Business ID and a player just searches for my facility, or they go to Google Maps, they're in the vicinity, they type in pickleball. Most likely they're going to see your Google Business because you own that Google Business ID. And by golly, everybody should have a Google Business ID if you have your own club. So if you don't have one, go claim it because you definitely need it so you can take advantage of this integration. And again, this is going to be part of public booking, okay? This is just one of those things that you are going to get if you enable public booking. But what is going to happen when I actually have that Google ID connected to public booking? There's going to be a setting within here that you can say, yes, I want my public bookings in my Google Business profile. And then you'll basically just attach your you'll input your Google ID number, and then it's going to make a connection. Okay. Once that actually happens within the Google Business profile here, Tim's got his website, directions, reviews, all of that. He's also going to get a reserve now button. Okay. And so players from their phones, if they're looking at Google Maps for facilities, everything, will be able to click that button and navigate right to public bookings. So it's not going to show them like times that they can reserve within Google, but it's going to unlock the capability for them to have that frictionless booking experience that will take them from Google right to your facility. So that was really the driving force between what public booking is. So that is coming really soon. Josh Willie on our integrations team is working out the details to finalize that. We've already done the development work, which is the hard part. Google has a lot of rules about how many people have to be available to do this before we can actually turn it on. So we're finalizing some details right now in the background, and we should have that up and ready in the next couple of weeks. So definitely keep an eye out on that if you're using public booking. All right, let me think about a couple other things that have come up while we're doing this. Access controls, we know that's a big one too. Access controls is slated to be something that we work on here as like a phase 2 of public booking. So if you go to courtreserve.com and click on that very pretty new banner that our marketing team put up, if you scroll down, it kind of gives you an overview of what is featured and what is included in public booking. And towards the bottom here, we've got a coming soon with Google because we're actively working on that. Same with digital waivers. They're coming soon, I promise. And then right now we have access control compatibility right now. So if you are an access control facility and truly staffless, we understand, again, you might not be able to use this today, but you will be able to use it in the future. And so definitely keep an eye to the sky on some of the stuff that we have coming soon with public booking. But there's some cool things that we have planned for the access control piece too. So really public booking was built in a way to help you fill your courts and, even, fill those last minute bookings as well. People can find your club and they can book that court and they don't even have to create an account. So Josh, any other questions? I've been talking this entire time and there's been no questions. Is there any big stuff that's come in that maybe I haven't covered, but you've answered in questions?
No questions, but I think it would be good to go over how, as admins, you can interact with those players' information after they've signed
Oh,
up and things like that.
good. Yes. Thank you for reminding me about that. So, okay, in like the 7 minutes I have left, I'll tell you about the leads report. So once you have this booking information, how do I even know who these players are and can I market to them? Yes. So we've built a special report specifically for public booking. You're only going to see it if you actually have public booking enabled, okay? So we're calling it the leads report. So under reports on your left navigation, it's under leads. Let's go there. Come on, internet. Okay, so lead capture report. So this lead capture report is going to show you every public booking that I'm in 2025. That's not a good idea. Okay, so let's run that report. So this is going to show you all of the information about the players that have booked courts at your facility. Okay, so hopefully every time they've come in, they're using their own unique phone number. And so that phone number is what's going to tie them together in order for you to understand that they've been at your facility. Okay, so let's say if I came twice this month, I'm only going to show up on this report once, but it's going to tell you, and I'm like way zoomed in here, but it's going to tell you the total visits that this player has had based on the phone number that they've entered, and then also the total amount spent. So you can actually look at this report maybe at the end of the month. Look at this report, see who the players have come in, who's really the most interested at using your facility, and you can market to those players directly from this report. So how do I do that? Well, if I have players on this view that I'm looking at, again, let's say that I wanted to just look at everybody from the last month. I could run the report from the last month and I can notify these players via email or text message, right? Because we collected the text message for every person, and hopefully soon you'll be able to require that email is required. Again, one of those friction points that we wanted to take out, but you will have the ability to require it. But if they entered an email address, you could also communicate with them with email, and then you're going to be able to bulk notify them with the current features that exist in Court Reserve for those bulk notifications. So then those players' information is going to come in to you from the leads report to your email experience. And so you can email and communicate with those players. Thanks for coming. We would love to have you. Here's membership information, that kind of stuff. So definitely, if once you get this up and running, take a look at that leads report so you can see who those players are and how much they're visiting. The other thing I wanted to call out here is that Josh added an improvement very early on into beta. One of the biggest questions we got about this was we were only filtering players by last visit. So if you had let's say I created a reservation this month, but the activity that I was coming for, or I created a registration for this week. We'll say this week, because most of you are going to be doing stuff on a weekly basis. So if I created a reservation this week, but I wasn't playing until next week, I wasn't going to show up on this report if I'm only showing if you're only searching within a small window. So we also are giving you the ability to do created on. So I could actually look for anybody that created a reservation maybe within the first month that isn't playing until next month, and then target those players as well. So it's definitely got some flexibility to it. But again, the important piece is you're able to see who those players are, how much they've paid, and how often they've visited your facility. Josh, anything else to add there? Any other things that you think might be important to point out?
I'd just like to say that we are continuing to improve on this. There's a
Yeah.
lot that we would like to do with it, including creating a member for these people right from this report so you don't have to duplicate this information. And if you are one of our customers that is using the patch integration, I can't remember if we are already doing it, but sometime in the near future at least, we will be sending this information over to them so that you can build automations through patch to market to these players as well. So it doesn't all need to be manual.
Yep. Perfect. Great call out. We actually had a meeting about that this week, so I'm hoping we'll have some movement on that here in the future. And another thing that Josh just mentioned is we're literally coming out of beta with this today, you guys. We've already made a ton of improvements to it and gotten so much feedback, but we want more feedback. Okay, so if there's something that you think that would be beneficial to public booking, please share that with us. You can go to our support team. They have a channel for how we're communicating that information to our product team and getting that information to us. If you go to the idea board is available for you to post that information as well. Within the idea board itself, there actually is a group called public booking. There's a category for public booking. Please use that public booking category and not reservations, just so it's in the right spot for our team to review. But we want to hear any and all feedback that you have. Is this good feedback? Please tell us, because we want to hear your success stories as well. But definitely give public booking a try. We really hope that you guys are able to start using it today. Our team actually has a Slack channel that we set up very early on in this process. And so every time a public booking is created, we are getting a ding to our Slack channel. So the goal is that channel gets so annoying that Josh and I need to mute it. So let's go with that, because we really want that to happen. So start using public booking. This is going to be a great experience for your players. Again, we have loads more planned for this, for how we could use this in the future and all of the things that we could do with this. But again, we're so happy that you guys joined us today and that you were excited to learn more about public booking. And again, this webinar will be up on YouTube in the next 24 hours. So don't miss, you can actually go back and rewatch the whole thing if you want. But I'm right at 58 minutes. Josh, anything else? Any other questions that came in last minute before I end everything?
I would just say as well, this is available for all subscription types except for the start plan, as the start plan does not have access to integrated payments. But other than that, regardless of your subscription status, you will be able to use this feature. Other than that,
Perfect.
nothing else. Great job, Kim.
All right, awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining us. Be sure to check out our Lunch and Learn next week and learn more about what's coming to Court Reserve. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day.